Going to class. Probably the one of the hardest things that it is for students, especially if you have that the attendance policy of policy 2, where you don't really have to go to class and teachers don't really care. You got to go to class. Going to class is really, really important, and it's really just that simple. You just got to go to class, and so there will be times when you don't feel like going to class. Just go to class. There will be times when you'll convince yourself. You'll be like, this teacher is boring. Go to class. All right. The teacher doesn't even speak English. I don't understand half the things they're saying. They're speaking a different language. Go to class. All right. So your friends are hanging out. By the way, I remember my dorm, spades at the time when I was a college student. Spades was the big game, and everybody would play spades. And the way our dorm was set up was you would come up the elevator. I lived on the 6th floor. You would come up the elevator and you walk out the elevator, and then there was the lobby right here, the lounge and the lobby where people would hang out, and then you could go to the right or to the left if you're going to your dorm room. So you had to walk into the lobby in order to get to the elevator to go downstairs. And sitting there were tables and stuff, and there they were, my friends. Hey, where are you going? And going to class. We need a fourth. We need a fourth. Come on, man. No, going to class. Come on, we need a fourth. All right. So very tempting. It was always people sitting there. I need to play, to play cards. It didn't matter when I was going to class, when I was going to school. But it was kind of funny because if I was like I'm going to practice, they wouldn't say anything because I played football. If I was like, oh, you're going to practice, because there was no way I was gonna play spades over going to practice. Like that was just not gonna happen. My coaches would have killed me. Like, it wasn't even an option. But class, oh sure, dude, miss class. Come on, just whatever. All right, we're going to go food. Just go to class. All right, so get rid of those friends. You just fight the temptation. No, don't get rid of those friends. Those people are, they're there. But point being is have the intestinal fortitude to go to class when you're going to go to class. When it's raining, by the way, go to class. All right. So college is more. It's more than what you're actually going to learn in the classroom. And what you're going to learn, you might say to yourself, I already read this chapter. I'm not going to learn anything today. It's not a busy day. It's not a big deal if I don't miss. And what you're really learning in college, I will tell you, 90% of the stuff that you learn in college, unless you're 90% of the stuff, no matter what field you're going to go into, you're going to forget most of it. Okay, you're not going to remember half the stuff. I took so many classes that I don't even remember anything that they were about. I couldn't help somebody study with them, and literally the minute the final was over, the information fell right out of my head. And so. But what is it about? It's about learning discipline. It's about learning responsibility. It's about learning how to do something when you don't feel like it. And that's what the real world is about. It's about doing things when you don't want to do them and get things done. By the way, homework doesn't end. Okay? If you're going to become a teacher, you're going to do lesson plans. You have to grade. You have to do stuff at home. If you're going to be an accountant, you're going to have to go home and do stuff. If you're a doctor, you don't just leave. By the way, you're still going to have to study. Medicine advances. It's not like you're going to get out of medical school and then that's it. You just know how to do medicine, and nothing ever changes. You have to read. You have to keep up. You have to do journals. You have to keep up with you have to go to conferences. Businesses. You're gonna have to take work home with you. So it never ends. You're never gonna run out of homework. Even just because you're not in school, you have to do homework even later on in life. So this is a video on going to class, but just understand that concept. So. That's what you're learning. You're learning how to be disciplined and how to discipline yourself and strengthen your integrity muscle, that I can do things. When I say I'm going to do them, I'm going to get them done. And so here's some tips how to get you through class, or to make sure that you go to class and try to get through those classes that are a little bit more challenging. So tip number one, you've heard this before, sit in the front of the class. Sitting in front helps. One, it helps you stay awake, okay? Because when the teacher's standing 2 feet from you, unless you just have all kinds of courage, it's kind of hard to just doze off in front of them. And usually the teacher will hit you on the head or say, go get something to drink, or go get out of their office, or get out of the classroom if you fall asleep right in the front. So point being is, okay, you awake, all right? So just by sitting in the front. You can't sneak out, okay, if you're sitting in the front of the classroom. You can't sneak out, you can't daydream. It makes you be more present in the classroom. It is pretty simple as far as that goes. So people, by the way, the teacher notices the people in the front. So if you're there all the time and you're always at class and you're always sitting in the front row, or the first 2 rows, the first 3 rows, right in the front there, and sit right in the front if you can. and by the way, most students won't be trying to get in the front seat, so there's always some front row seats there. But that could be the difference between the teacher giving you a B+ or an A when they're trying to decide your, it's like, I know this kid. This kid's always at class. He's always there, or she's always there, right in the front, every single class. You know what? I'm gonna, I'll bump their grade up. Teachers will do that stuff, and so, so point being is, it could be the difference between failing the class or getting a D. It could be the difference of, when you go to the teacher because you need to miss a class or you need something that came up, an emergency that came up, that they grant you that favor, versus because they've seen you in the front of the room every single time. So it's challenging, but sit in the front, be different. Okay, so so number 2. Make quizzes as opposed to taking notes. So what you might want to do is you might want to take your phone or take a camera or something and audio record the actual class. But as the class is going on, buy some note cards, the index cards that you have, and for each class, when you're instead of taking notes, instead of sitting there taking notes, sit there and make quizzes, okay? Make questions for yourself. So if the teacher says, Albert Einstein, created the law of relativity, you don't write down Albert Einstein created the law of relativity. You write who created the law of relativity, and then on the back, the theory of relativity, and on the back you would just put the answer. All right, so now you automatically have quiz questions, to work and to learn better later on when you're studying, as opposed to just trying to read through your notes. Okay, so so something also that mentally engages you in the class by doing that. So therefore you're like, well, how can I word that in a question, or how can I word that? How can I make that? That's going to keep you engaged in the class. So make the flashcards. Another thing is ask and answer questions. Okay, talk to the professor. Make sure you're raising your hand. If you have a question, if you do not feel, the number one fear people have is what other people think. Okay, well here's the thing: everyone else in that class, they don't care about you. Okay, so and you shouldn't care about them. And so point being is, I remember I took my intro to philosophy class, and I used to ask all kinds of questions. That's why I became a philosophy and economics major, because the fact that intro to philosophy class was so intriguing to me. And I used to ask questions, and I would ask questions, and I would have dialogue with the professor. And I remember at the time the internet had just was just getting a little bit prevalent, and people used to go into chat rooms and talk. And I remember I was chatting with someone, and they were like, "Oh, I got to go to this class. I got to go to class soon." And I was like, "Oh, I got to go to class soon, or class soon too." And the person, I don't know where they were, but they were like, "Yeah, I have this really annoying person in the class. They keep asking questions and they talk all the time, and it makes the class go long." And I go, "Oh, I'm like, that sucks. I hate those people." And then after a while, as we kept talking in the conversation, I started to realize, wait a second, I was that person, and I was in that class. I was talking to someone else in the class that I was in, and I was the jerk who kept everyone long. But you know what? I don't care, and that's why I have a degree in philosophy, because I was very good in those classes. So so point being, ask questions, answer questions. By the way, if you ask a question, if you're confused about something, I guarantee you there's at least 4 or 5 other people in that class who have the same exact question, who really don't understand it either. So they're just afraid to raise their hand. Same thing with answering questions. If a professor asks a question and you know the answer, raise your hand. If you don't know the answer, raise your hand. Okay, say the wrong answer. All right. So by saying the wrong answer, you'll get corrected. And so what people think? You say the wrong answer, and you have to get it corrected, and you're just like, oh, okay, now I know the right answer, and that will stick in your brain. So then, let's say you have the test, and that question comes up again, you will remember that I got that wrong in class that day, and therefore you will get the right answer because of the fact that you'll remember it. You have an association with that. All right. If somebody else answers, if there's a raising the hand or you have to answer something, answer it to yourself. Like, even though you're not answering the question, say, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I would have said, and see if that's right or wrong. And so the more active engagement you can have in the class, the more likely you are to remember the information, as opposed to just sitting there and listening and writing notes. You're not going to remember as much nearly as being engaged. 80% of the things we learn are through actions and doing. When you do stuff, you're more likely to learn it than just hearing it. Okay, and so hearing it is only about 10% of our learning process. If you're hearing something, that's why even on these videos I have. I had the video, so you can hear me, you can see me, and then also you can read it below. But the biggest thing that's going to help you is by actually doing it. When you actually do stuff, That's the only way you can learn other ways, but that's the best way to learn. That's the fastest way that we retain information. So go to class.